David, I'm going to throw it over to you. What's the first thing that stood out to you about this film, or the first thing you'd like to touch on as we dive into what we appreciate and don't, potentially, about Grave of the Fireflies?
Let's see. One thing I noticed about this film is is like it's very endearing. Like, just the voice acting, the animation, everything comes together, to really endear you to the characters, and it's kind of cool how they like sort of lull you into a false sense of security almost.
Yeah.
Like where um yeah, basically where you see Seta and his sister at the beach, and they're
Mm.
playing and they're laughing and they're happy finally. Um and it's a very endearing scene, and you get this sense that things just might work out for the two of them.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It does not. But yeah, it's that really stood out to me because it's like I think it doesn't just like hit you all at once
Mm.
with all the depressing darkness and stuff.
Yeah.
It like gives you a little glimmers of hope and then snatches it away. And it's super effective how it does it.
Swipes it away like a cat to a mosquito, or a firefly, even. Yeah, it does provide a weird sense of safety at times where you're like, oh, it merely makes you believe, it makes you falsely believe that, oh, maybe it's going to be okay. Maybe they're going to make it through. And nope, that hope's gone. Like just in the next scene, even. And I really like that about this film. I don't know why. I usually don't like that about that in any film. Like, but this one is just so well done and so clear about its intentions, especially when it's established it in the beginning of the film, that you're like accepting of, okay, like I'll accept that, like where it's going before it even gets going. And I really like that. I also would say that's a reason why this film was ahead of its time. Because if you look at other stuff around this time, it's, just a normal story, but to kind of show the end at the beginning almost is it's brave, like in terms of writing, in terms of, especially for that time. That's why, again, why I would say that during that time and even today, there's some stuff out in Japan that is leaps and bounds better, that deserves all the Academy Awards. Or I shouldn't say that. Maybe it deserves attention because they're doing stuff that nobody else is doing. And it's doing stuff that's out of the box of the Hollywood kind of thing. And this film really deserves all the praise I've heard throughout the years. Um, and yeah, the only critique I've heard about the film is that it's just sad. And it is. But I feel like that's more of a strength than anything. It's most strongest aspect, even. So, also, the fact that it was, inspired by a true story, man, that's, it's believable too. Can't believe that happened. First thing I want to bring up is kind of the animation. I remember we started it and I'm like, oh, hey, that fire kind of reminds me of Rankin Bass's The Hobbit, And well, makes sense because, well, most of the crew that were from that production company, who helped out with The Hobbit, the Rankin Bass Hobbit, and collaborated with Rankin Bass, went on to form Studio Ghibli. And I wouldn't be surprised if a ton of animators went from there to there. In fact, the hand drawn fire animation in the beginning, and also like the fire surrounding the fire cisterns that the planes drop in the raid, that also stood like it's just beautiful. Like holy cow! Like the quality of this hand drawn animation is just stellar, and I can't believe they made this and Totoro alongside each other. Like that also stands out to me. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think of the animation? What makes it stand out to you? We already established it's extremely well done, but is there anything particular that stood out to you in the animation while watching the film?
I think I mentioned it before, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll go into it a little bit more detail. The use of light and color in this film is utterly outstanding. Like the part when they move into the little cave that they're going to live in, and it's getting dark, and then Seta releases the fireflies that he's collected. Like, man, that is a beautifully lit scene. Like, and just in general, the scenes with the fireflies are very well done. Like, the use of light in the context of totally hand-drawn 2D animation is crazy to me. Because nowadays, you know, even in 2D animated movies, like, things like lighting and stuff are done using 3D rendering software. You know, they want the lighting to sort of pop.
Yeah.
So they use 3D rendering to give it sort of a sort of three-dimensional quality, even in 2D productions. But this was like totally hand-drawn, totally 2D, but like the scenes where the fireflies, like, they're like the way they drew the light, like you could tell they were a master of their craft.
Yeah.
Like there's almost like a 3D sort of quality to those scenes.
Yeah, I obviously didn't have CGI. This was 87. Like, it was straight up hand drawn, kind of like Nausicaa was, which is crazy to think in hindsight, because I'm thinking about like some of the flyover scenes and some of the other crazy sequences in that film. And I'm like, dang, that was 2D. God, that must have taken forever to do. And this film's not as, you know, impressive in that sense. In the sense of, oh, wow, look at Nausicaa flying on her thing. Look at the giant slug-like creatures crawling through the sand, which this is straight up a Dune ripoff, but we'll accept it, you know, because it's dope. But anyway, yeah, it really stands out, and it really makes, it just adds more to it, the quality of everything surrounding it. And everything from the voice acting to the animation to the story, it kind of just, it comes together so well. And I think that's probably the masterpiece quality that we're seeing. But speaking of story, I do want to get into that a little bit, Dave, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I do like, one thing I like about is, I like and don't like this, but basically the big story decision and the third of the way through the film, where it's the penultimate decision that Seta makes, and he decides to leave the ant house. I like that because it's something a kid would do. It's realistic without thinking about it, you know? And he's like, oh, we have money, you know, it'll be okay. We have the money that our parents left us. But also, it's a choice predicated on false hope, or hope that isn't concrete, being that, oh, dad's going to come back for us and we just need to survive until then. When in reality, an adult would actually look at that situation and say, I believe he will make it, but we are going to plan in case he doesn't, you know? And so it makes sense he would choose this choice, leave the aunt's house, who's, you know, verbally abusive and very fed up with them for some reason. They're cool kids. Like, you need to pull your weight around here. It's like, oh my God, I can't stand this woman. And then they're like, all right, we're going to leave, which is, you know, a good choice in hindsight, or at the time it would look like a good choice. But after he did that, I'm like, oh yeah, only good things can come from this decision, you know? So I kind of, when we were first watching it, I'm like, I don't like that, because it's asking for trouble. But in hindsight, it makes sense, because it's a decision a kid would make, or an immature person would go with.
Yeah. So, and yeah. Also, this is based on a true story, so
yeah,
there's probably something to that has bearing on that actual events that this story is based on, you know?
You know what I just thought of? One thing that I like about it, in terms of considering it a masterpiece, is that because of, where was I? You know that term that Hitchcock used, like, it's more scary it's you have suspense where you can see the bomb underneath the table and it's ticking, right? But the suspense is amped up where you know the bomb's under the table, but you can't see it. Like knowing that this film has a very tragic ending, you know the outcome. It's the sense of dread the film brings to you as it tells its story of the tragedy that is happening. And it's just heartbreaking, but it's the way it handles that heartbreak or the eventual heartbreak is, I think, why I like that choice so much. Even though